Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to do share screen so we can get started. And just let me know, Tim, if that's worked. Should be able to see just one slide of the Building Better Regions Fund PowerPoint.
Yep, that's working.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're on record, everyone, and we have got the right PowerPoint up and running, so that's brilliant. Please, everyone, keep yourselves on mute. If you do want to come off mute, just let Tim know by putting something in the chat area. So down the bottom of your screen, there'll be a chat button. Just press on that and type your questions in the chat because we do want to get to answering all of those questions. So thank you so much. Obviously, a massive amount of interest in the Building Better Regions Fund. So as I was saying prior to hitting record, this is webinar number 1 of at least 3 we're doing in the next 24 hours. So we have another one 7:30 tomorrow morning, and then another one at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then of course, we'll do some follow-up webinars in the new year. So thank you all for registering. Okay. BBRF, as we know, it is one of the biggest grant rounds that open all year. We want to run today through some grant guidelines for you all. Today's webinar, what we're going to cover is the application criteria and guidelines and the key elements to applying for funding. We're also going to give you some guidance on developing a strong application with no guarantees, but certainly we want to give you the best possible advantage because we want to see more of these grants coming to our region. We're going to talk about some best practice principles, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time on advice around data and evidence and where to get it, because that is the key to a really good grant application. And we're going to have some Q&A at the end, time permitting. So if at the Q&A session you've got something that's really your project specific, we're going to give you our details plenty of times during this webinar. So please do not stress. You're probably best off asking those questions one-on-one with either myself or Tim rather than publicly on here. And you will be given all of our contact details. So there'll be the opportunity. Really, we want to keep some of the Q&A period to stuff that's more general. That may be something I neglected to cover, and you think this is a question that a few different applicants would be wanting to ask. So not project specific, but rather than some general questions around the actual grant would be great, and we will answer what we can. We're certainly not the department that looks after it, so anything that we can't answer, we will take on notice, and we have got really good contacts in the department, so we will get that information back to all of you. Okay, so that's what we're going to run through today. As I said, no guarantees. So this is my disclaimer. The Building Better Regions Fund is a highly oversubscribed grant, and considering we are only Darling Downs Southwest, we're not all of Australia, and we're hitting about 300 that are registering for our 3 workshops. That shows you just the amount of interest across our region, let alone the rest of Australia. So highly oversubscribed grant, no guarantees, you know, that you will get funded if you follow today's tips. However, we believe it is going to give you the best possible chance. Just so you know, Darling Downs Southwest, we don't get any say on what projects do or don't get funded. So please don't be thinking that that's going to give you an advantage. Certainly though, it is one of the grant criteria is you have you actually spoken to your local RDA about your project. So you know, if they get stuck, they will come back to us and ask us our opinion. And if you have not got an RDA letter of support attached to your grant application, it will look pretty obvious that it's not supported by your local RDA. So yes, but we don't actually get a say in which ones do and don't get funded. So I just wanted to make that clear before I start. So for those of you who don't know us, we're Regional Development Australia, Darling Downs Southwest. So this is our footprint, and I think that picture indicates where I spend most of my time. So people have been saying, when are you going to close the office for Christmas? Well, our office is closed 90% of the time because we look after that big footprint. However, I am going to try and ignore phone calls and emails between Christmas and New Year, just so that you guys know. The rest of the time we are available. Sometimes it just takes us a little while to get back to you because we're somewhere across 23% of Queensland is our footprint. So 10 local governments, we have 7 state members and 2 federal members across that footprint. And you can imagine how many chambers of commerce, progress associations, and the rest that we represent. So it's quite a big region. We actually fall under the Department of Infrastructure. We're set up as an independent organisation, but we do fall under this charter that you see on your screen. And that's part of our funding agreement that we have with the Department of Infrastructure. So every RDA is independent, but we do have to report back on those items on the screen because that's under that particular part of our funds. We are partly funded by the Department of Infrastructure, and each RDA will deliver under their charter and under maybe some other funds that they get a little bit differently. So for those of you who aren't in our region, you will see differences between the RDAs. Our RDA has this as our priority, which is improving access to funding, progressing projects and feeding back to the federal government. So you can see an activity like today fits very well with our overarching priorities, which is improve our access to funding and giving you the tools to have a better application so that we get more grants to our region. If we win more grants for our region, straight away we get an economic impact from those funds that have been won and then get spent regionally, as well as you know, the legacy of whatever just came to our region, you know, whatever new project or piece of infrastructure the grant actually funded. So that's why they're our 3 overarching priorities. We want to progress projects, so a way that we do that is actually connecting you up to grants, making sure that you're dealing with the right people and shortcutting that for you. And our third is the feedback to the feds. We're on weekly teleconferences with our minister. So Minister Nola Marino, who sits under Deputy Premier, Prime Minister McCormack, is our minister. And please use your local RDA to feed in issues that you want fed back to the federal government. They really are listening to us and they really do use the RDA network intel often. Now, we fund under our RDA the Economy ID tool, and there's 2 main portals on that. One is all more around community data, and the other one is more economic data. Now, we are going to spend a bit of time on this later because this data is what we want you to use for your grant applications to make sure you've got a good grant application. But we're going to go into that a lot more later in the webinar. I just thought I'd also let you know that, as I said, RDAs are partly funded by the Department of Infrastructure. Our RDA has got a funding agreement with the Department of Employment, Small Business and Training, so the state government, to deliver the Regional Jobs Committee. So just thought I would let you know that there's lots of activities that we do, but that's a pretty major one at the moment. And we held a virtual jobs fair a little while ago, and we allowed a bit beyond Toowoomba to be registered with that just to try and help fill jobs across our region. And we will be looking at doing another one in March next year, just giving you the heads up about that. All right, let's get back to Building Better Regions Fund, which is what you are all here for. So the overview is that, of course, in the budget, they announced that there was 200 million going into a 5th round of the BBRF. Now, most years the BBRF opens and closes about now. So it would normally be open in October and would close usually in December. Sometimes it closes in November. But due to the budget being delayed, BBRF got delayed. So even though it's in the forward estimates, they can never let us know that it's a definite, a done deal until it actually has gone through the budget process, okay? So we all know it's coming, but it's slightly delayed in its opening. Because it's delayed in the opening, the department have put forward the guidelines early, even though the portal itself to apply isn't open till next year. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to run through those guidelines. So 100 million is in there to support tourism-related infrastructure projects, and then the other 100 million is for all other general infrastructure projects and also the community investment stream. Okay, so we're going to touch base on all of those today. Just keep in mind the amounts that you can apply for. So the infrastructure stream is 20,000 to 10 million, and it'll cover 50% of the eligible project costs. So there might be things in your project that aren't listed in the eligible cost. That's fine. It doesn't mean you can't put that project forward. It doesn't mean you can't ask for 50% of the money to cover that. And in the community investment grants, you can apply for 5,000 up to $1 million, and again, the 50% applies. Now, the application period, as I said, we've got the guidelines early. So the department have given them to us early and released them early so that you can start preparing. And we've been saying to any of our projects that come to us, we were told by the department that the grant guidelines weren't going to change overly much on previous years. So we knew we were pretty safe to run this workshop based on last lot of guidelines. And then the department were very good and released the guidelines just in time before today's workshop. So that we get to actually talk to the real guidelines now. But our tips have always been to any of our projects that have come past our table, start getting grant ready now. Don't wait. The guidelines don't change that much. They're there available, you know, all year round. Start getting your projects ready. So if you haven't started already, today is definitely the day to start, because the 12th of January is when you can start actually putting them in the portal. Okay, now it does close the 5th of March, and do not leave it to last minute, and definitely do not think that you have got till 5 o'clock. Because it is 4 o'clock Queensland time, and we had a few projects in previous years get burnt by that. And it doesn't matter how much you debate and argue about it, your project will not be put in the mix. So please make sure that you actually don't leave it till the 5th of March. But if for some reason you do, remember it is 4 o'clock Queensland time, not 5 o'clock. Okay, so we do not want to see projects who have gone to all that effort miss out by an hour. Okay, so eligibility. An incorporated not-for-profit organisation, an Australian local government agency, or a non-distributing co-ops are the ones that are allowed to apply. So if you are a for-profit business on the call today, thinking that you can apply for Building Better Regions Fund, well, you can if you partner with one of those, which is, it's rarely done, but you can do it. A good example locally of somebody who did this was John D. did partner with Southern Downs Regional Council in round 1 of Building Better Regions Fund. So, you know, those grants, not the applications themselves, but who won them, are all publicly available on the website. So you can go and have a look at that. It's a good case study for a successful private-public partnership. But certainly Southern Downs Regional Council was the applicant in that process, because John D as a for-profit organisation cannot be. So if you are a for-profit organisation and you thought you could listen to this today and access some of these funds, and you probably haven't got a public person to partner with, please, there are other grants available. So on that link there, and you will get all these from us, that's our website, the RDA website, and we've got a funding page on there. So the amazing Tim, who is sitting in the background listening to this today and letting you all into from the waiting room into the webinar, he uploads every month or any new grants that we see, and he puts that onto that portal. So if you are a for business looking at getting funding, that is actually your one to go look at. And there are all of the not-for-profit ones on there, but there's a whole business section. The other one that I would recommend is the innovation document, which is this one. It's on our website as well, but it shows the for-profit, so the business grants. So this little top section up here is all the state programs and grants, and this section down here is all of the federal grants that are available for businesses. And then the back page of that document runs through the links and the different places where you can go find that. So for those that came on the call, if you're a business and you're for profit, BBRF probably isn't for you unless you can find a partner, but there are all these other tools. So please go to the website and find those. All right, back to BBRF, and those that are eligible are hopefully still all on the call and listening. There are 2 streams, and then they've got the tourism extra component this year. So there's the infrastructure projects stream, and this one here is for new infrastructure or the upgrade of existing or an extension on existing infrastructure. So this is the one that's all about pretty much bricks and mortar, you know, and again, you have to have 50 to 70% of your eligible costs, and you will need to prove that you that your co-funding is confirmed if somebody else is bringing in the co-funding, or you will need to show from a letter from your accountant that you can do those matching funds. So that's a key part to these grants. The other one is the community infrastructure stream. So these are for local events, strategic regional plans, and leadership and capability strengthening activities. So again, with any of the streams, you need to prove the economic and social benefits, and you need to have those matching funds. Now this one, if you've got a small project and it's less than $20,000, you don't actually have to have matching funds. So this is where small community groups who are trying to do a small project, the good thing is you don't have to have the matching funds, and you can apply for 100% of the eligible project costs. Now in the community infrastructure stream, usually I get a few questions around local events, strategic regional plans, leadership or capability. So here's what they cover. This is straight out of the grant guidelines as to what is considered a local event. Now, keep in mind it needs to be a new event, and you can never apply to Building Better Regions Fund twice for the same event. So even if it's a considerable extension or a variation on that event, if you have applied in the past and won, you can't apply again, okay? So generally speaking though, it needs to be a new event, and that's all in the guidelines. So that's what it covers. Strategic plans, it can be like a regional skills audit, a research project to support a strategic plan, or collecting socioeconomic information. So we've seen in the past people go for skills audits or a research, chambers of commerce applying for maybe a strategic plan for their region. So that's where these fall under. Or under community infrastructure stream, you can also get funding for projects that encourage leadership and leadership capability in your region. So you can see there some of the things that you're able to apply for, okay? So that's the community stream. This year, they've added the 100 million for the tourism related infrastructure. So your application process is still under the infrastructure project stream. Okay, so there's not a separate third lot of guidelines or third portal or anything. It's still under the infrastructure project stream, just you will need to show evidence that you were affected and your local tourism economy has been affected. Okay, so you need to demonstrate the impact that COVID has had on your tourism industry, okay, and then show how your project relates to benefiting you know, offsetting that impact that has happened in your region. So there is an additional piece of evidence that you will need to do if you tick that your project is a tourism related infrastructure project, okay? So you use the same portal, same application, same everything, if it's just a general piece of infrastructure or if it's a tourism related piece of infrastructure, with the difference being you must have that extra demonstration of impact on your region's tourism industry if you want to flag that you're the tourism related infrastructure, okay? So now matching funds, we always get some great questions around matching funds. So there is a tool that you need to be able to use. I'm just going to end this show and hopefully I'll just do a different share screen to show you this tool. So there is a tool. Tim, is that showing up the map now for the eligibility?
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. This one, what it is there's a map here available, and we've got the link on the webinar that what you do is you can just click on your local council. So I'm going to click on Paru, and you can click on your local council and it tells you whether or not you fall into the remote or very remote. Now, the difference is you must have 50% matching funds unless you fall into the remote or very remote category. If your council area does fall into the remote or very remote, that means you can actually ask for 75% of the project to be covered by the Building Better Regions Fund. So you've only got to match 25%. Okay, so there's less onerous on the matching funds for those that are living in the remote and very remote. So just so that you know, the I'll just go share screen again. Sorry, guys. All right, Tim, is that back to one screen again? One slide? Awesome, thank you. So that little link there is what I just showed you, okay? So you guys will get copies of these slides so that you can click on that and you can go have a look for that map. It is in the grant guidelines, and if you open up the grant guidelines and click on it, it'll take you straight to it. But for those across our Darling Downs and Southwest, it is 6 of our council areas that are classed as remote and very remote. So that's Blue, Quilpie, Merway, Paru, Maranoa and Balon. So you guys only need to find 25% of matching funds. Western Downs, Southern Downs, Gundy and Toowoomba, you do need to find 50% of the eligible project costs. However, there is an exemption. You can apply for an exemption to not have to have matching funds. I will say to you, this is a highly competitive grant, usually ridiculously oversubscribed, and not having some sort of matching funds doesn't look great. You would need a fair bit of evidence to prove as to why you don't have the matching funds. I've seen organisations do it, but you do want to make sure you've got a lot of evidence to show why you haven't got matching funds, and you can put in for an exemption. Okay, now those exemptions and the details of that are all in the grant guidelines. I would just caution you and definitely say to you, take into account highly competitive grant rounds, okay? So if you can get 50% of the total eligible project costs, please do so. Now, they can be because you've partnered with somebody else. You might have a business or a quite generous company in your area that has said, look, if you get this grant, we'll match you 50%. That 50% doesn't need to be in your bank account right now. There's a document that you can get that organisation to fill in that says, we will match funds. And you don't need to show that that's in your account right now. If you have got the matching funds and you are putting in that you have got the matching funds, there is an accountant form that needs to be filled in to show that you have got the matching funds, okay? So the assessment. So this is the criteria that they will look at to assess your grant. Now, there's 4 of them, and as you can see, if you don't get the economic benefits and the social benefits justified, you've lost 30 out of the 40 points. So they're the 2 key crucial ones that you need to show. What are the economic benefits of your project and what's the social benefits? So we have seen in the past that there will be like a beautiful community project that you want to do, and you spend all your time talking about what it's going to do for the social benefits of the region, and you don't address the economic benefits. You probably are not going to get through to the next round. Okay, so first round they look at, are you eligible? And you're in the yes pile or the no pile. And then the next thing they'll look at is, can you at least score over 60% against that assessment criteria? So you can see if you don't get 1 and 2, the math doesn't add up. It doesn't matter how good you are at 3 and 4. So we're going to talk today a little bit about some of the data and evidence you can use to help support criterion 1 and 2. Okay, so criterion 3 is also obviously, are you capable and do you have the capacity and the resources to actually deliver this project? Because we don't want our taxpayers' dollars going to somebody who can't do it. And then the impact of funding on your project. So you do need to prove that it's very important that you get these funds, or otherwise you probably can't do the project. Okay, so how can we help you? What's Darling Downs, RDA Darling Downs Southwest, and what do we do? So we usually have meetings with project proponents across the region and help you, give you tips and hints and help you connect up with people to make sure that you have a really strong project proposal, okay? So if you haven't had those meetings with us yet, you're probably almost out of time, because that needs to happen throughout the year. How we can help you now that we're kind of in grant application period is by making sure that your application is competitive with a letter of support and data. So we're going to run through the Economy ID portal that we use and the economic impact reports that we can do for you so that you've got data. Okay. Now, Tim and I, yesterday or the day before, Tim, when the guidelines were released and we knew that they were any day soon, believe me, in our RDA office, we go, okay, let the fun begin, because we get smashed. So if you want a letter of support and you want this data, please do not leave it to the last couple of weeks, because we just physically can't do them. So get in early and we will be able to help you with those letters of support and the data. So I'm putting this slide up early, just in case people need to leave before the end of the webinar, so you have got all of our contacts. On this slide, there's also some quick links, and we're going to run through these links. I already told you about the funding link. We're going to spend quite a bit of time on the economic profile. And then also this link here is our homepage on our website. I would suggest that you get signed up to our newsletter if you're not already, so that Tim can be sending you out updates on any of the grants and any of the changes that might happen with this current round, okay? But that's my number and my email, publicly available, and that's Tim's email. What Tim needs to do a letter of support or those data reports for you is your project brief, so he can have a look at that, and also either the dollars that you're going for or the amount of jobs that you think it will affect. So that's the information he normally needs, and that's his email there, the admin@RDA email. All right, so you've got all that just in case you drop out later. This slide is also at the very end of the today's presentations. All right, one of our absolute strongest tips we can give you is read those guidelines. Get a highlighter, get a pen, write all over it, tag the things, look through there for any of the words like must and mandatory, because if you don't do them, you won't even make it past the first culling that they do of the grant. So really make sure you understand those guidelines and you understand the criteria and what you need to do, and don't skip one. Make sure you have all your attachments and everything done. Some key principles of a successful project. Now, our lovely counterparts from Tasmania, RDA, put these together, and I think they're really, really great. So I have to acknowledge Craig Perkins, the director from Tasmania, who put these together, and I think they're certainly worth sharing with all of you. So a good project, this is not about grant writing now, this is about your project before you even get to writing a grant, is that you must be able to show measurable improvements, okay? You also need to have a project that is well defined, okay? So, and that it needs to include a suite of documents such as risk plans, project plans, budgets, business cases, all those sorts of things to support your project. You need to make sure that you have actually got meaningful support. So if your project is tourism related, you'd want to have the support of your local tourism organisation. So for us, that's either Southern Queensland Country Tourism, if you're on this eastern end of the Darling Downs of Southwest, or if you're on the western end, you want some support from the Outback Tourism guys. If your project is going to have a huge effect on a particular industry, so that's just say ag, you should have the support of, you know, organisations like AgForce, etc. So just to have meaningful support, you need to, with any good project, have good value for money. You know, as a taxpayer, none of us want to be putting money towards things that we don't think are going to have good return on investment. And just that works the same with going for grants. Your grant in your project in this case needs to be shovel ready, okay? So it needs to be a project that hasn't started yet, because you can't have already started construction. So it hasn't started yet, but you are ready to go. You've got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, so that you're ready to go. So we've had projects come to us and the project was reliant on being able to use council land, and council weren't in agreement. That is not a shovel-ready project, because you don't know, you can't even get an agreement on putting it in the dirt. So make sure your project is shovel-ready. And another great tip is to have strategic alignment. So have a look at your local council strategic plans and economic development plans. We have Queensland plan, and make sure it aligns with that. And certainly, given that it's a federal government grant, make sure it aligns with the outcomes and the outputs that are in the actual grant application. Okay, so there are a couple of tips there for you. Some other considerations is that there really does need to be a need. Like, what's the demand for this project? What's the need for it? So make sure that's being considered. As we said, those strong working partnerships in the community and your region. Also understanding your outputs and your outcomes. So an output can be, it's a modern multi-purpose facility, or it's built to modern safety standards. That's an output, whereas the outcome is that there'll be an increase in employment and tourism, that there'll be community participation, that it will encourage social inclusion and physical well-being. So just consider those and do your research. Like, have a look at understanding government's priorities and past projects and community expectations. So there's some good hints and tips there for you. All right. When it comes to this particular grant, a couple of things that you want to be checking is, first of all, are you eligible? You can save yourself a lot of time if you're not eligible, because you do need to invest some time in applying for this grant, okay? Then have a look at, have you got the matching funding to do it? Always be very, very conscious of not only the closing date of the grant, but the grant period. So the grant period for this is December 2023, which means projects that get funded need to be fully completed and acquitted within that time frame. Be very aware of what can and can't be funded, not only in the projects, but in the eligible project costs. So on the grant guidelines, there's an appendix at the back, A and B, or they call them appendix 1 and 2. One of them is all the eligible costs, and the other one is the not eligible costs. So as I said earlier, it can be a not eligible part, like a cost in your project, but it's a key part of the project, but it's not covered. That's fine. You can't get rid of it. It's in your project. You just can't ask for that to be funded under the grant. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Be very, very aware of the assessment criteria, which we're about to spend a bit more time on. And also the mandatory documents, which I've got a little summary for you coming up. Okay, so make sure you always check them. So the criteria, as I said, there are only 40 points in total. 15 goes towards economic benefit and 15 goes towards social benefit. So you need to make sure you address this in your application. You have got to justify these numbers, okay? So does your project meet the needs of the regional community and have a broader economic benefit, okay? So this needs to be all in numbers, not we feel and we think this is a pretty project and it's going to have a nice effect. That is not going to win you a grant. We need to make sure that we have got you numbers in there. So actual value of jobs, the number of jobs, the flow on economic impact, all of this you want to be using. A good grant has a lot of numbers in it, rather than just words, grant application. So we want to be making sure that you can tick that off, okay? That next one is the social benefits. So even when it comes to the social benefits, which some people think are a little bit more warmer and fuzzier than the economic benefit, you still need numbers. You need numbers to prove your case, okay? So, make sure that you have a look at addressing all of those things, and we're going to show you some tools that you can use in your numbers, okay? The other two, which are only worth 5 points, one is, are you capable? Have you got a track record? Can you show that, you're financially viable to be able to do this? Have you got a sound project plan? Have you taken into account risks, and thought about those? Timeframes, budgets, but as you go through the grant application, it's not going to let you miss those. It asks you for those things, but be considerate of it. I think when you're doing your project planning long before a grant gets opened, because you need to show that you are capable and you've got the capacity to deliver the project. And then this is the impact of the funding. Okay, so you need to show that you need these funds and that there is the in-kind and the cash contribution as well. So yeah, the likelihood the project would proceed without the grant. Okay, so you need to show that this is really crucial that you get this funding to actually deliver on the project idea. All right. So we're going to run through some quick general grant writing tips, and then I have some specific BBRF tips, okay? So I know I said it before, read the guidelines, read the guidelines. Read the goddamn guidelines, please. Like, highlight them. Make sure you are really clear on what is in that document, and tick them off, and get a fresh set of eyes to make sure you've ticked them off. So I can't stress that enough. Be clear as to why you require the funding, so the economic and the community impact, but really stress your why and what a difference this will mean for your community and for the economy. Demonstrate your support. So we're going to have some tips later about letters of support, but you do need to make sure that this is just not something that you sat in your little community group or in your office and you came up with this, great grand plan that nobody even knows about. You need to actually demonstrate support. There are character limits on the grant application, so you do need to be succinct. Okay, so make sure you really summarize up quite clearly the what, the how, and the why, okay, and the effect it's going to have. But by the same token, and this is the trick to a good grant application, is don't assume the assessors know you, your region, or your acronyms, okay? So you need to make sure that you can't be assuming any of that stuff. My tip is the grant guidelines are available. It's a document that's on all the links that Tim's already sent out to you all. I would be printing those grant guidelines. I'd be printing the sample grant application, and then I would write up your answers for each of the sections in a Word document that you can keep editing and get your characters right, okay? So don't waste them, but be succinct, but at the same token, don't assume the assessors know stuff about you or your region, okay? Submit early. Don't wait until the last day, and certainly do not rely on that last hour. The portal gets very, very crazy busy in the last couple of hours and usually just jams up. So definitely you don't want to be leaving it till that day. You do need to show financial support. So that's either via you having the matching funds, and you'll have an accountant fill in a template that's available on the portal. Or if you don't have the matching funds, but you've got guarantee from somebody else that if you get the grant, they are happy to pitch in, then there is a template that they need to fill in to say that that's what they will do. Do not undervalue in-kind support. You can't count it in your matching funds, but you need to still be putting it into your budget and into your grant application to show that they are definitely getting very good return on investment because of the in-kind that you are also doing, or your community group is doing, or a partner is doing for this particular project. As I said, do not leave it until the last week to be doing all these things. Certainly getting stuff like letters of support and those financial support letters filled in, get onto them nice and early. Okay, letters of support we're going to go into a little bit more in depth in a moment. Allow time to revise your application and also get a fresh set of eyes to read over it. Now, the best fresh set of eyes, if you're, say, like the president of your community group, and the best set of eyes actually isn't the treasurer or the secretary, it's somebody who is not involved with the project at all. And if they can read it and understand what you're trying to accomplish and think that it is worthy of money, then you know you're on the right track. So if you can get a fresh set of eyes to look over it. And then my other tip, of course, is to use data and evidence, which we're going to spend some more time on. Okay, so some grant tips that are Building Better Regions Fund specific is, if you have a look in the grant documents, it says what are their desired outcomes from this grant, and you want to be at least addressing one of these. This is the whole government's desired outcomes from this actual grant. So you need to be making sure that you tick off on one of those and you address it, and you let them know, hey, we're going to help you achieve this outcome. okay? The next up is that they consider your application on its merits, and this is what they in the document base that on. So first of all, how well it meets those 4 criteria: economic impact, social impact, have you got the capability to actually deliver on it, and how important is it that you actually get some funding to be able to deliver on it. So they're the 4 that you've got to make sure that you meet. They will have a look at how it compares to other applications. So again, it's a very competitive round. Value for money is big. So we want good return on investment projects going in there, and they will look at past performance with project delivery. So just keep those in mind around the Building Better Regions Fund. So data and evidence. Here's one that also my lovely colleague from Tasmania showed as an example, and I think it's a really great example. And you can see that bottom one, it actually is all about putting in numbers and data to support, okay? So this exciting project is strategically located in the centre of our community, and it has a strong local support and endorsement from all key stakeholders and those intrinsic to the success of this worthy venture. Or you can say, the building of this shed in this town is supported by, specifically who it's supported by, and then use some data like the median age of 55 years, 30% higher than the state median age, and 16% of households are older couples without children compared to 11% across the rest of the region. That's data, and that's how your grant should look. Okay, so use as much data and evidence as you can to support your case and your thoughts and your wording. Okay, so where to find data and evidence. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen. You guys are going to get all these links. I'm going to click on them now, but I'm going to stop sharing this screen and actually go on to this one down here and start sharing it for you. So we want to go on to this one. Okay, so Tim, please tell me that you have got the map again, but now I'm going to go to ID profile.
We have ID profile.
Yeah, hey, all right. So please tell me that lots of people are aware of the ID profile tool because we fund it, and it, well, with the help of our 10 councils. So our 10 councils across the Darling Downs and Southwest region and RDA both co-fund this portal, and it's not cheap. It's quite expensive, but all this data I'm showing you here is publicly available. So you can go on this link here and you can have a look at all of this data about our region, and you can click on specifically your council area. So you can have a look at population, Indigenous, migrants, who speaks English, who doesn't speak English. All of that information is here available, okay, for you to use in your grant application. So we really want you using this tool. So just to give you here an idea, you can look at population summaries. That tells you a whole heap of information about our population. And if you don't want all of Darling Downs Southwest, your project is in Gundawindi, you just click on here and it'll give you all of the Gundawindi data. Okay, so you can see it all here. The other thing that you can do on any of these data sets that are on these screens is you can export them. So you hit this little button and you can export that, and you can copy and paste it into a supporting document, not the actual grant itself because it's character limited, but you can put it into a supporting document that you're going to attach to your grant, okay? So the two portals here, the community profile portal has all more demographic type stuff. The sorts of things they ask us in a census is in the community profile. And so you can find that there to prove why the project is needed, okay? Now, you need to take into account that we are on the tail end of a census, you know, so it kind of sucks that, you know, it's been since 2016 since we had a census. However, they know that this is the best data you can get at the moment, you know, until we have another census next year. And so August 2021, I think, is the next census. And usually that data will come out early the year after. So 2022 is going to be the next time we get some good data. They know this is the best possible data that you can get, okay? So use it, you know, And then if you need more support, get a support letter from somebody saying that data has changed. So I'll just give you an example. The migration profile and those in our area that are from non-English speaking backgrounds has certainly changed since 2016 and across most of our region, but particularly say in Toowoomba, it has changed. So we would have to use the current data here on ID profile, but because we know it's changed, we might get, say, a letter of support from Multicultural Australia or from Catholic Care or TRAMS to say, look, yes, that's the 2016 data, but we saw this much intake of migrants in 2018, 2019. So you can always do that, but use what's in here, guys, because it's the best possible data that we've got at the moment. Now you can see on the bottom of the page, sometimes it's easier to come down here and you can kind of find what piece of evidence you need. So really have a think about what are you trying to prove to the assessors before you come on here, and then you can go in here and then you can go in here and show the what data you're actually looking for. So say like under the community investment stream, you can do some leadership building. Remember, you can do some leadership building activities under the community investment stream. So under that stream, you might want to use the amount of volunteering that happens in your region as a proof as to why our volunteers need leadership courses or leadership capability enhancing project that you're going to do. So you could come in here and have a look at the fact that in our region, we have 23% of the population are actually volunteer, which is higher than the Queensland average of 19.1%. So we have very lovely volunteering, great people, and that's why we need more leadership courses in our region compared to the rest of Queensland. That's how you kind of use the data, okay? So, and as I said, any of these you can export. So you can export that and put it in a little project, or if you want to export the whole page, that's up the top here. You can click on the export over here and you can use this. So everything you've seen in there is publicly available, okay? So that's all the more community demographic type stuff, you know, about who we are and what do we look like. This one's the economics. So you can see if you're trying to prove social impact and social stuff, you're probably going to use a community profile. To tick off the economic impact of your project, you'd want to be using the current economic data and the future impact that your project can have. So in here, you've got your economic indicators that tell you all different things about the area. So population, local employment, unemployment, if that's related to your project, it's all in there. The GRP of our region, you can have a look at it, what we export and import. But here's a good one for you is the tourism one, because there's a whole tourism section this time round for Building Better Regions Fund. So you can say, you know, what value of tourism is to our region. And again, you can change this to whichever region you belong to, whichever council area you belong to. Or if your project is going to have a broader impact across Darling Downs Southwest, then feel free to use the RDA one. But most projects you would just say, you know, it's in Charleville. So you would have a look at using the Merway Shire data. Okay, so again, you can see here that it tells us all of our employment stats. You get some great little graphs of the tourism value in our region. And as I said, you can copy those, just export them, copy them, add them into a project business plan or project brief that you would attach to the grant to show why your grant is needed. Okay, so there's heaps in here. Again, down the very, very bottom, if you want a shortcut to something in particular that you want, sometimes it's easier to find down here, okay? So you can come down here and you can just look for what you want. So visitors, nights and stays, and you know, any of that sort of stuff, depending on what your grant is about, okay? So that gives you those tools. Now, everything in here that I've showed you so far is publicly available. Okay, you can't break this thing, get in there, tap on it, go, okay, I'll tap over here and see what this visitors at night say and but have a look for the data that's going to support your application. The one thing that is not publicly available is this little tool over here, these economic tools. And that's only because you need a little bit of training to use them. Tim has had that training and he will do these for you. But I just wanted to show you what you can do in these tools. So what this is it tells us the economic impact of a project. So let's just do an example of a tourism piece of infrastructure that we're going to do in Maranoa. So just say a community group in Maranoa have decided that they're going to go for the tourism infrastructure and they're going to build a $700,000 arts and creative centre. Okay, so what this tool does is you can go to construction because it's not actually arts and creativity at the moment. You've got to construct the thing first because it's a piece of infrastructure. So you got to go to construction, which I've obviously missed while I've been scanning here and talking at the same time. There it is. So you go to building construction and there's only two parameters we can do this on, either sales or jobs. So we know to say this project is going to cost $700,000 in construction. And then we know that once it is constructed, there'll be 10 more people employed in arts and tourism. So you do two separate reports for that, one in sales and then one in jobs. So we're just going to do the sales one to show you. So this will only go in millions. So you have to do 0.7 million. So because it's 700,000 and we're just going to say it's a tourism infrastructure. Okay. So, and then you hit submit. So what this does is it shows you what is the flow-on effect of spending 700,000 in construction in Maranoa. Okay, so because it's done by the National Economics Institute, and they know, and they've got done all this research, and the federal government and the state government know that this is validated. It's just not that you've pulled these numbers out of the air. They know that this is a valid tool. And that these numbers are real, and you really need one of these attached to your report, and you need to use the numbers in your report. So this tells you that even though it's 700,000 in construction, the flow-on effect to just the Maranoa region, it will be 880,000. You can see down here the impact on the Australian economy, because the flow-on effect is that it would be actually worth $1.38 million. So it also tells you, this little tool, that it knows that that flow-on effect will mean 6 more jobs created just in that construction phase. Now, those jobs mainly will be in, obviously, the construction industry, but they also know that because that construction's happening in Maranoa, there's an extra half a shift at the local service station and at the local takeaway. And they know that, you know, you'll have to use some professional services to put that project and that piece of construction together. So it does actually also show the impact on jobs and the jobs created in the region. So it'll tell you here the jobs that have been created and which industries they're in, and you get these little cool graphs, like as you can see, majority obviously in construction, but it was all little bits of these extra jobs and employment that will happen, okay? So what happens is Tim does that, and then he hits export, and then he does a report, and then he will email that to you. Okay, so I have got a sample email, a sample report back in my PowerPoint presentation. So over here. Tim, please tell me that that's sharing again the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Thanks, Tim. So what I just covered there with you guys is the economy ideas, the community stuff, sorry, the ID profile. The economy ID here is obviously the economic profile data that we just showed you. And then if you want more data and evidence outside those two tools, the community data and the economy data, on our website, we have got the regional data link here. Now, it not only has the link to both of those, if you can't find them yourself, you will find it on the RDA site. But underneath that tool, we have got all of the council's strategic plans. So if you want to look up your local council strategic plan and show that your project actually supports what's going on in your council area, then you can shortcut to all the strategic plans on this link here. Okay, now we are in the middle of, or almost at the end of, updating our website. The data's not going to change, just that it'll look a little bit different. So that may happen over the Christmas New Year break or early New Year. Tim can correct me if I'm wrong. So we are certainly on the tail end of having a much fresher looking, user-friendly website, because ours is a little archaic. So it will be getting rolled out. So if it looks a little bit different, don't panic. You also have got our emails if you need to email us and ask where the hell's that data now, and we will get it for you. Okay. So this is an example of, say, the tourism industry and what you could use. You know, and as I said, I just exported that straight out of Economy ID. You are not breaching any, you know, plagiarism rules or anything. We pay Economy ID some really big bucks so that you can actually use it this way. So you're not breaching any rules by doing that export button. We've covered the costs so that you can export it and use it in project briefs and project plans and business cases and all those sorts of things, or PowerPoint presentations if you need to use it in a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, now that 6-page report that I was just in the economic impact tool, this is what it looks like. So this is just the first 2 pages, the next 2 and the last 2. So you can attach that whole report to your application, or you can actually pull out of it the bits and pieces that are going to support your grant. Okay. So that's what one of those tools looks like. And as I said, if you want one of them, you need to email Tim your project brief so he can do you a letter of support, but also say to him, look, our project is, you know, 2.3 million, constructing an aged care facility. And once that aged care facility is built, we will be employing another 22 people in aged care. And Tim will do 2 of these reports for you, one on the construction element and one on the post-construction, the jobs and the flow-on effect of the jobs that are created in aged care. So, you know, that's all you need to do is shoot that through to him and he can do you one of them. Okay. So that's some good places to go get some evidence and data. The other thing that you want to be doing is having a look at showing support and evidence that there is support by having really good letters of support. Now, a couple of givens that you should always have on your project is your federal member, your state member, your local council. The 3 levels of government, you would want to get a letter of support for your project from each of them. Okay, that's pretty key. The other one would be your local RDA. Now, I acknowledge that we have got some people on today's call that aren't from Darling Downs Southwest. And, you know, all the RDAs, we work very closely together. So, you know, one of my neighbouring RDAs, Scotty Rowe, I'm just letting you know, he has got his own ID profile. Not all RDAs do. So Scott Rowe from Wide Bay Burnett, and I believe we have a fair few on the call from Wide Bay Burnett. The Wide Bay Burnett have definitely got this same tool, but not all RDAs have it. That's up to each RDA whether or not they want to put their limited funds into funding that. Some councils have actually just gone and funded their own. So I believe Ipswich West Moreton RDA, I think 3 of his 4 councils have done it themselves, but not all 4 of his councils maybe. So you might not have access to the tools, depending on where you're from, you might not have access to the tools I just showed you through, but definitely for all of Darling Downs Southwest, so for our 10 council areas, you guys have definitely got it. So, you know, so that's your competitive advantage. Please use it. But for those of you who aren't Darling Downs Southwest, make sure you have contacted your local RDA about your project, and they can show you what sort of level of support they're able to give you. A good one to show industry and business support for your project and to also talk about the economic impact of your project is your local chambers of commerce or industry bodies. Okay, so you know, if your project is say like an aged care facility, you could get a letter of support from your local PHN. You know, if it's an ag related piece of infrastructure that you're going to be doing, or the flow and effects is, you know, jobs in ag, then certainly you would want to get, you know, maybe a letter of support from Ag Force, or you're in a cotton area, Cotton Australia, just to have a think about what industry bodies you can potentially get letters of support from. And then to show community support, you could definitely go to your community groups to give you letters of support to say, hey, we think this is a really great project. Now, keep in mind for the tourism infrastructure, that your local tourism organisation should probably be aware of your project and certainly have provided you with a letter of support. But it specifically says in the grant guidelines that they may contact Austrade about some of the tourism infrastructure projects. So to me straight away, if they call Austrade and they say, you know, how about that new piece of tourism infrastructure that's going to get built in Charleville, and Austrade say we have no idea what you're talking about, that's probably not going to look great if they're down to 2 or 3 projects that they're choosing between. So I would make sure that because it mentions that in the grant, that you have actually gotten in touch with your local Austrade rep. Yeah, so let us know that. Ours is Kelly. We have got her contact numbers, so to save you going through some generic, you know, portal somewhere or ringing a 1300 number, please just let us know that you would like her details and we will get them to you, okay? So that Austrade are aware of your project. So that's only really if you're specifically looking at the tourism infrastructure pieces. Make sure that you have got Austrade on your list of bodies to make sure are across your project. Okay, with letters of support, some tips is get data and evidence in them as well. Now, usually when you're asking for a letter of support, the people that you're asking it from, they're doing you a favour, so please help them out. And if you've got some time, prepare some dot points. And then what I have seen have happen is, you know, you'll do your project brief together and you'll send everybody that same thing and they all copy and paste it onto their letterhead. And it looks pretty obvious from an assessor's point of view that, yes, they were happy to put it on letterhead, but are they actually really, you know, engaged into this particular project? So if you have time, try and personalise your dot points and try and personalise them that makes sense. So can you imagine if you were sending some dot points to the Chamber of Commerce, I'd be making it all around that economic impact. And if you're sending a letter of support request to a community group, I would be making the dot points around, you know, some of the community impact, you know, and obviously if you're going to ask something from your tourism organisation, also ask them if they've got any other tourism data that can add to your application. So I know the 2 tourism organisations across our region, Outback Tourism and Southern Queensland Country Tourism, have got access to more data. And certainly Southern Queensland Country Tourism, Peter Homan has got a whole new data suite that he might be able to help you, you know, just pull out a couple of key numbers that you can put into not only his letter of support, but into your actual application. So, you know, they're my tips on letters of support. Every possible place you can get more data and evidence, please do it. But make it easy for your people that you're requesting data from. And if you have got time, try and make them specific. Okay, so that's letter of support. In the Building Better Regions Fund grant, there are some specific key documents that you need to make sure that you tick off. If you haven't got these in here, you'll be in the no pile, so make sure you've got them. So one is an accountant declaration saying that you actually have the matching funds, or if you don't have the matching funds, you would want the evidence of contribution letter. Now, these are on the BBRF site that Tim sent to you. I think he has sent out to everybody the link to the infrastructure projects, and he sent out the link for the community investment stream. If you scroll down the bottom, you can download the guidelines, download the sample grant application, and there is also the accountant declaration and the evidence of contribution template. use their template, get that filled in and attach it to your grant. Okay. The other one that you need if you're going for the infrastructure stream, so you don't need this for community investments, but you do need it for the infrastructure stream, is the actual authority to do that piece of work on that piece of land. Okay, so they call it the authority to undertake the project at a site. So if you don't own the land, if your community group doesn't own the land and you've got like a peppercorn deal with the council, you want the council to have filled in the authority to undertake the project at a site document. So it's on the downloads in the link on the Building Better Regions Fund. Okay, with the tourism infrastructure, so if you're saying, look, I want to be considered within the 100 million bucket for tourism infrastructure, you need to show the evidence of impact on the local tourism industry. So that would be a separate lot of documentation that you want to show. Oh, sorry. And then also, if you are putting in a case that you can't match funds, you need to show that evidence, and that needs to be a separate lot of documentation that you've done to show that evidence of not being able to match funds. Okay. You also need to show that you've got the eligible status, so that you are an incorporated association, or you're a charity, not-for-profit organisation, or you are a local council. So you need to show that proof. You do need to show employment numbers. So that tool that I showed you back here with that report, one of them, that helps you do that. So make sure you get that off us. Okay. You also have to attach a document that runs through the 4 criterion. So economic impact, social impact, capability and capacity to deliver, and the need for the actual dollars. You do need to attach a different document to show the criterion. And if you are applying for over $1 million for your project, you have to have filled in a cost benefit analysis. So that's an extra document. There's a template on the links on the Building Better Regions Fund for you to fill that in if you're asking for over $1 million. Okay, which I don't think will be too many of you. Another thing to take into account is there is nothing wrong with actually contacting the department and finding out something to help clarify something about your grant application. So these are all in the grant guidelines, but we've got a summary of the links here. They have a contact us page. There is a 13 number, so it's 132846. There is an email link, and there's even a feedback link. So if you have got a question, please don't think that asking it is going to affect your grant application. It will affect it if you don't ask it and you do something wrong. So they give you these so that you can ask those questions. My tip is, do not leave it till the last week to be asking those questions. So feel free to ring them or email them and ask, you know, the bodies, the actual people who deal with these grants, the questions you need to ask them. We'll help you as much as we can, answer what we can, but at the end of the day, these are the ones who, you know, are in charge of this grant. So please use those links. All right. Question and answers. So I'm going to get off my sharing so I can actually, in a minute, so I can actually see the chat and some of the questions that you've been asking. But I also just wanted to say, look, if you want some more info about RDA, there's our web link. It might change its face and look a little bit flasher in the next couple of weeks, but the actual web address won't be changing. We have an e-newsletter sign up on the homepage at the very, very bottom. Just scroll all the way down. I'd recommend that you sign up so that Tim can keep you in the loop with the stuff that we're doing. And then we post most of our grants and updates and things like that around mainly on our Facebook page, but we have got some other links. So there's a LinkedIn, an Instagram, and a Twitter. And then we usually put any of our webinar recordings on that YouTube link. So you can go back and have a look at them at a later stage, although Tim will be emailing the recording and the PowerPoint to you after today. Here are our contact details again, if you didn't get them down earlier, so that you can email or call. us. And that is the end of our PowerPoint. So I'm going to stop sharing and just go in here, and Tim might help me out with questions and things. I did have one come through during the week, and that was about, can you commence your project? You know, once you've put your grant in, can you commence your project? And actually under that, if it's a piece of infrastructure, it is very clear under 5.1 that your project cannot have started construction. Okay, so I would still send that question in on the Building Better Regions Fund link to see what they say about that. But there is clearly under on page 11 of the guidelines, under 5.1, it has to be a project that has not commenced construction. Now, whether or not you can start doing some of the DA or some of the other stuff between putting in the application and while you're waiting to hear whether or not you will get it, I would be asking the department that question. But my reading of it was you certainly can't start construction. That would be mine. So that's one. I've got another inquiry, but I think it's about a for-profit organisation asking about the for-profits. So this is certainly a not-for-profit grant. As I said, we sent links through earlier, and on our website we have got the grants for businesses. So please go have a look at those if you are the for-profit organisation. So I think there was still a query around yesterday's around the not-for-profit. Any other questions? If somebody wants to come off mute, as I said, if it's project specific, you're probably better off talking to us offline. If it's a general question, we will do our best, or we will, Tim will take a note of it and we will take it on notice and get back from the department for you. So if somebody wants to, let us, come in and say, come off mute and ask a question, please do so now. Not sure if Tim has to change any settings to allow you to unmute. Kathy, because I know you, can you unmute and just so or Kushla or somebody that I know, come off mute and just make some sound so I know that that is working.
Now you should be able to hear me.
I can hear you and see you, Kathy. Thank you. So that does mean if anyone does want to come off mute, that is working, because sometimes the settings don't allow them. So was there any questions that anyone had around anything we explained today? Feel free to come off mute, or as I said, we have given you all our details. If it's project specific, you probably are certainly better off having that discussion one-on-one with us. But if there's a general question about the grant, the process, any of that, let us know. No? Okay, I'm going to assume that if there's no questions, then we have finished up in plenty of time, and that allows you maybe some extra time to talk to us specifically. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening today and putting that time aside. And as I said, if you know somebody who should have been hearing today's webinar, I get to do it again tomorrow, 7:30 in the morning, and then we're going to do it again at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
You're unmuted.
Hey, Trudi.
Yes, Alan, how are you?
Good, thanks. My wife helped me click on.
No worries.
It's been great, thank you very much. But I'm helping a tennis club to revamp or upgrade their courts. Now, would that come under infrastructure or investment?
You would put it under normally infrastructure, because you can do an upgrade to a current piece of infrastructure under that. So you could put it under the infrastructure project stream. It definitely wouldn't fall under the community stream because it's not going to increase leadership capability. It's not a strategic plan, and it's not an event. So it definitely would not be a community investment stream, Alan, because of that. But upgrades to current pieces of infrastructure can be covered under the infrastructure project stream.
You'd be upgrading existing infrastructure, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so it does include upgrade to existing infrastructure. So it's not just new, doesn't have to be just brand new pieces of infrastructure. It can include upgrades to current infrastructure. So I would think that the one that you would want to have a look at is certainly infrastructure projects. Do not waste your time looking at the guidelines for the community investments. That is, even though it's a community group, that is clearly not a event, clearly not a regional strategy or strategic plan, and it's definitely not a leadership capability building exercise. So you would not be able to put that under community investments at all.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Trudi. It's been great.
No worries. You're most welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Trudi.
Welcome. Thanks, Alan. Lovely to see you again. Yes, so we'll get finished up. As I said, there are hints and tips. We wish you all the best. The portal doesn't open till January, but do not leave it till the portal being open. The portal being open has nothing to do with your ability to be able to start getting grant ready. So you need to start getting grant ready now. You've got the guidelines, you've got all the links. If you go back and read the guidelines or the grant application itself and you have got a question since then, you've got all of our contact details. So please send them through then. All right, so I thank you all for listening. As we said, Tim will send through the PowerPoint and the recordings, and then we usually load them onto our YouTube channel. We wish you heaps of luck. These are our best possible tips, but it is a competitive round, guys. So, you know, really get in there, get prepared and give it your best shot. You know, and that's what today was about. No guarantees, but we're trying to give you the best possible shot. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.